Hey there, how's it going? Richard Kiston here. So you're thinking about getting an electric vehicle? Congratulations. It's an amazing experience. But before getting there, I'm sure you've got some questions and concerns. Some of them may include, how much is this thing going to cost me? Where am I going to park this thing? And probably most importantly, where or how do I keep this thing charged? We'll get to some of those things later on in the video. But before, I want to thank you for taking some time to check out this video. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to this channel where I'm always dropping new content, whether it's around podcasting and my podcast, the Adulthood Revisited podcast, growing your side hustle with something like digital marketing, or just fun lifestyle stuff like this and electric vehicles. So recently I picked up delivery of a Tesla Model 3. I've been in love with Tesla and the Model S ever since the time I think I first came across it back in 2009. And, finally pulled the trigger and things came apart. It's like I had to stretch a little bit, but made it happen. And it's an incredible experience. I'm still in that honeymoon phase, like learning the car, the quirks of it, but I thoroughly enjoy the driving experience. I drive a lot as a lawyer, going to closings and other things. And so for me, the drive experience is really important. So, I was driving a nice car before, but decided I wanted an electric vehicle. I wanted to get into a Tesla for a really long time. And the Model 3 made that happen for me. Notwithstanding, looking back, there are some things that, I'm fortunate that it ended up working this way. And particularly when it comes to charging. And that's what I want to hop into in this video. Policy-wise, it's kind of important to touch on, but I know here in the United States and I'm pretty confident around the world, countries are really pushing for automakers and people to switch over from gas and petrol, diesel engines to electric vehicles sooner rather than later. It's something that we're battling with climate change. And I think here in the United States, the current administration's plan is that all auto manufacturers, the entirety of the lineup, has to be electric by 2030. Which is pretty ambitious. And it's going to require cooperation, not just from automakers, not just from like localities, not just from business makers, but people, right? Us. And we've all got to figure this out. And so I wanted to share this experience with you that I've had recently, in the time I've owned my car, about the charging problem, or being connected to a charger. And it's something that it seems like it's brushed under, but you really need to, if you're in the market for an electric vehicle or thinking about it, pay attention, because I think what I'm about to share is something that if you don't do the homework, it's easy to overlook, and it could be a regrettable choice really quickly and might leave a very bad taste in your mouth. So this conversation doesn't really apply if you have free and unbridled access to an outlet. If you have access to an outlet at work or at home, if you have a driveway or garage and you can connect your car, then none of this conversation doesn't really matter, because if you can charge your car overnight while you sleep, you have nothing to worry about. Go after the car you can afford. Go after the one you think looks sexiest. That's I think what you would do. But there are millions of Americans like myself here in wherever we live. I live here in the New York City area, where I live in an apartment building. I park on the street. I don't have easy access to an outlet to charge my car. So I have to rely on public chargers. And I think in contemplation of that, that goal of all cars being manufactured being electric by like 2030 and really moving consumers over to electric, public charging or access to chargers for people who don't have driveways and garages and things like that is going to be really critical. You have to be safe, want the public at large to feel safe that they won't get stranded on the road just because they don't own a home. And so I want to dive into some of that as we look at charging options here, for instance, in the New York City area. And I'm going to compare this to my Tesla experience so far to a couple of cars that I've seen pop up on my newsfeed. They've gotten a lot of attention in the media, some reviews already popping up online. So I want to talk about them because it's like in the details that it's really not addressed. And again, this issue of charging. So 2 models that I want to compare. I haven't driven them. I'm not going to say anything about the drive, the features, any of that. I just want to talk about what I know in terms of charging about these vehicles and compare it to the Model 3 experience that I've been having so far. And that's the Volkswagen ID.4 and the Ford Mustang Mach-E. The Volkswagen ID.4, I think, is in like first edition production right now. It starts off at about $38,000. Very affordable, a very value-driven price line. Again, I'm not talking about features or anything, but and also the Ford Mustang Mach-E, it's already gotten a lot of acclaim, won like 2021 North American Crossover of the Year, even though I haven't seen a single one on the New York City streets so far. I don't know, story for another day. But I want to compare those two because for whatever reason, they've popped up quite often in my news feed. And I was just doing some digging, like understanding what comes with it, what are the advantages or disadvantages versus, again, my Tesla experience. And so here's what I found. When you get for instance, the Ford Mustang, you get like 2 years of complimentary Ford Pass subscription. And that's like Ford's new user app plus whatever rewards and some other stuff. But in terms of charging, it uses a charger. It's like a common, I think it's like a J1772 charger, but the charging network is connected to, I think, Electrify America is what they give you access to. So what I decided to do is, and also just to see what it comes with, right? North America's largest charging network, but they don't really give you details. And I think I read somewhere that Ford does give you, the Ford Pass connects you with, again, Electrify America. Volkswagen says it here, the ID.4 comes with 3 years of unlimited charging at Electrify America. So you get unlimited charging, which is cool, but then you've got to figure out where these chargers are. So that's what I want to do. Like if you're in the market and you're shopping for an electric vehicle, or you're about to get a Tesla, but maybe there's more value in a Ford or a Volkswagen, here's what I'll share with you. So here's the Electrify America map, and I tried to pull up a huge swath of like the New York City area. So you've got Brooklyn, Queens, some of Nassau County, some of the Bronx, some of Manhattan, some Jersey here, right? So here's what you got. You've got like 7 chargers for Electrify America. So again, this conversation doesn't really apply if you have access at your home or place of business to a charger, because you can probably charge there. But for everyone else in the New York City area, if you're thinking about getting an electric vehicle, like here's what you got to work with if they're throwing you out with Electrify America. You can go here to Queens Center Mall, but here's the problem. It's inside of the parking garage. So while you have access to charge at the Electrify America charger, you're gonna have to pay for parking, right? So that's an added cost there. And I don't know off the top of my head how much Queens Center Mall parking is. I think generally you may get like the first half hour for free, then you're paying for parking after that. This is at the Skyview Center, another place where the chargers are built into parking lot, and so you're gonna have to pay for parking. Valley Stream is actually, I don't know where these chargers are. I think they're out in the open. So here's a charger that you can access via the Electrify America network. So if you do get a Ford or a Volkswagen, the Mustang or the ID.4, you can probably rely on here. But again, if you're in Manhattan, Brooklyn, whatnot, and you want to charge and you don't have a garage or driveway to plug into, you're relying just on one single charger. I decided to check out some other charging networks. Evgo is another popular charging network that I've heard some things about. But again, in the New York City area, you've got like 4 chargers. This one is a 7-Eleven somewhere in like Queens. Let me just bring it up real quick. You got one charger at 7-Eleven. You've got another one. Where's that other charger here? One in Brooklyn. Somewhere at Walgreens or something, I think it was. It doesn't highlight it on the map, but where exactly it's located. But you see the problem. You got a couple here. If you're relying on these charger systems, there's not a lot of infrastructure here. Another charging system that I made a video of recently was Chargepoint. Now, Chargepoint is a little more interesting in that there are free chargers, right? And the video that I showed was here in LaGuardia Airport. There are free chargers, but again, you have a half-hour time limit for free parking, so you got to be in and out of that parking lot within half an hour. Otherwise, you start paying a parking fee, and these charge really slow. This one was like 6.6 kilowatt per hour or something like that. It would have taken me, according to my car, 10 or 11 hours to fully charge to 80%. As it was down to 10% to charge at this charger. Same thing here. This is, I want to say Skyview, JFK Airport, but all these, the ones that I've seen predominantly are within parking garages. Here's one in Brooklyn. Let's just see what they got here. You got multiple. Industry City in the lot. So I don't know if Industry City is a publicly available parking lot, but you may have to have a parking fee there. And then there was another one somewhere in Brooklyn. But as you can see, the problem with a lot of these charging networks is that there isn't a lot of publicly available charging spots. Where's this one located? Whole Foods. So there's Whole Foods there. This probably might be available for free. Level 2, I don't know. I've never been there. So I don't know if this is publicly available or you've got to go into a parking garage to do it. So far, like between Electrify America, Evgo, and Chargepoint, it's like this problem between having to add on the expense of paying for parking garage or something like that, or slow charge times is a really big problem. Now, on these maps that I've shown so far, there aren't even like you can get access to chargers usually in private garages, maybe for buildings or so. But again, at a fee. If you wanted to get, I know like where I live in Astoria, some of the private garages do offer you charging, but you'd have to pay for parking while you're there, plus the use of the charger. Now, not to sound just like a absolute Tesla fanboy, but I did want to bring up the Tesla map just to show what the in comparison what the charger map looks like. And as you can see, just there's more chargers available, supercharger locations. And the cool thing about many of these supercharger locations is that they are publicly available. You don't have to go into a garage. Not saying that some don't exist in a garage, but more of them exist out in the public. So for instance, here is one in Brooklyn, North 12th Street, I believe, is out in the public, like on the street. There's some more in Brooklyn here, Manhattan. What's here in Manhattan? West 70. So this is in a parking garage. So you probably have to pay for parking to use that charger. Here's one, East 47th Street. I've never been to this one, so I don't know what this supercharger looks like. Skyview, this is Skyview Mall. It's inside of a garage, so you'd have to pay. Queen Center Mall is inside of the garage, so you'd have to pay. This is the shops at Atlas Park. This one, again, in a garage, you'd have to pay. JFK, I know for a fact, is out in public, so there's no add-on fee, no garage fee. Valley Stream is a nice one that I enjoy going to because there's lots of chargers and it's out in the open. And when you go on Long Island too, it gets further out. You get access to chargers that just they're out in the open as well. So just Tesla seems to have a larger infrastructure that's already a little more mature, more public access to it. Again, I'm not saying it's by multiples, but there are more public chargers available. So at least right now, I would say that the hope is that all of these companies, jurisdictions, governments, sort of come together and realize that if you want people to move over to electric vehicles, it's going to require cooperation. Get unified standards for charging and make public charging more of a priority, because it's not just homeowners and people with garages and driveways that want to get electric cars. And if the goal is to move people from combustion engines to electric, you got to have it so that people who live in apartment buildings, who street park, like myself, have them accessible, have chargers accessible and outlets. So that's why right now, again, this may change in a few years and down the line when automakers and other companies come up with other ideas and other ways of charging. But right now, I'm so glad that I got a Tesla, because I know, at least here in the New York City area, I can find chargers all across the area, and without having to add on the cost of paying a parking garage or something like that. It's just get in there, supercharge real quick. 30 minutes on a supercharger gets you driving for the week, and I just have to pay for the electricity, which is actually pretty cheap in comparison to especially a gallon of gas or so. So right now, if I were to make a recommendation, if you're in the market for an EV, definitely consider a Tesla, because again, when it comes to where and how am I going to charge this thing, if you don't have access to an outlet at home or at a job or a business, then you got to rely on public chargers. And Tesla just has the most robust and most mature charging network available, at least in my experience. If you are in the market for a Tesla, be sure to click on my link. Be sure to do it in an incognito window, or clear out your cache, clear out the cookies in your window, and then click on the link there. Why? Because if you end up getting a new Tesla, both you and I will get 1,000 free supercharger miles. What does that mean here in the New York City area? That's like a month of charging for free. So you won't have to, you get your Tesla, and for the next month, you don't have to think about charging because it's included. So be sure to click on my link and make this happen. Hopefully you found this enjoyable and informative. I'd love to know if maybe I'm missing some stuff. Maybe the way you're thinking about this is in polar opposite to the way I've been thinking about it. I'd love to know. Drop some comments below. And until next time, take care, be well, bye for now.